San Diego Padres.
The Padres. That's okay. You just took my answer.
They're in last place in the NL West. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Their run differential is a -65, which is just horrible. So when you have well, let me just talk about run differential a little bit. It's kind of like the
how much you're winning or losing your games by, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the margin of victory, kind of.
Right.
So when you're in a negative number, that means that you're.
Then your average game you're losing
by a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, a number like -65, this early in the season is pretty rough.
That's horrible.
The pitching numbers pretty much support this stat right here. I mean, the team ERA is 4.70, which is 26th in the league. They have 126 walks allowed. They acquired Jared Weaver in the offseason, and he really has not panned out. He's off to one of the worst starts in any of the pitchers in 2017. Mm-hmm. He's 0-4 with a 6.05 ERA. In May alone, he already has 12 earned runs in May. And, another one of their pitchers, Clayton Richard, he's 2-4 with a 4.34 ERA. And, in May, he has 6 earned runs and 12 innings pitched. So they're not pitching well. And on top of that, they are also not batting well.
Right. But it kind of sucks because Manuel Margot is doing pretty good. His the past few at bats, his last.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
It's time for Flashback.
Now I'm not gonna say all Aries don't know, but
it's just the one you had. That was just
the long one, But it's always something that you can.
Go ahead, listen. Can you recollect any signs that you might like?
October 15th or 16th. What is that?
And Libras.
See, I've had some good Libras and I had one really bad Libra, but he was white, so he f***ed his back anyway. So I don't.
Wait, hold on, wait a minute. Demonstrate. You got to demonstrate the back.
No. Ain't no way.
Not the day. How they bust? Boy, show how they bust.
And then want to cry afterwards. I mean, what the f*** is the point of the tears? I mean, I can see you shaking, and shake it off real quick, but you crying? F*** out of here.
What was he crying for?
Cause baby, this pussy make that. You in? I got that good. Nasty bitch. The shame.
Oh shit.
McLean's Couch every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Only on BeExposedRadio.com.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
you can't even see the top of that thing.
Even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And the guy, my friend was like, hey, there's a young lady walking down. He's like, hey, you should go holler at her. And I'm like, nah, man. I'm a shy guy anyway, so I'm not going to do that. But he's like, yeah, do it, man. Go ahead, do it. So I said, hey, how are you? She kept walking past, and my friend also yelled out something as well. So she had stopped, and she had looked at us or whatever, and she said, this was the day before Christmas, too. It was so bad. And she's like, God damn it, it's Christmas. Like, leave me alone. And I'm like, what's wrong? I'm just trying to talk to you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm literally trying to talk to her. I'm catcalling. And I'm thinking, like, it's funny. You know what I mean? I'm literally thinking, this is a couple years ago. I'm literally thinking, like, this is funny. Huh? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. We get into that bar, and she's there. Okay, and she lays me out.
Good for her.
She lays me out. I'll tell you. I mean, little do I know, I had dealt with a hardcore feminist that day. She even told me, she's like, I'm a feminist. You did not know that. You do not know who I am. You do not know where I'm from. You do not know who I know.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Shepsworth Bentley, and if you haven't heard last week's show, make sure you guys go onto BeExposedRadio.com's Facebook page or YouTube page and check it out, because you don't want to miss it. Our next show is going to be next Sunday, every Sunday, 7 to 8 p.m., Homegrown Radio, new, fresh Baltimore radio.
Just a bit outside radio show.
There is one glaring stat that I read about while watching the games over the weekend. New York Yankees went 22 straight innings with at least one strikeout.
Really?
That's a major league record for the postseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an interesting statistic.
It is, you know, and then when you think about it, it's like, okay, you know, that, to me, that's like a big reason why, you know, they're losing right now.
Join the club that gives you stuff.
Hey, thanks!
Radio Loyalty.
Here's how it works.
Just click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then, you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple, right?
Radio Loyalty.
Click that banner to join now.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew. Wait. Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe. But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Artist Exchange Live.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Starts now.
I'm not even never aware.
I hear that all the time.
Of any of those.
All right.
And I've been into them.
Storytelling time. Storytelling time. Hello, everybody. I'm Mama Linda, and welcome to How We Got Over. We have two wonderful guests today. Oh my goodness, we have been talking nonstop for the last hour. And so we're just going to continue our conversation. And I want you to meet Dr. Joanne Martin from the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum, and Brother Stanley Bunjo Butler from the Griot Circle, Growing Griots, and the National Association of Black Storytelling. Right. Hello, everybody. How are you doing today?
Doing fine, thank you.
And Dr. Joanne, let's begin with you. Could you please tell us first, where are you from? Where were you born? Where did you grow up? And how did education influence you and the whole idea of starting a museum? Because something in your childhood obviously was there to put you on the path that you took.
Well, I was born and raised in a little town in Florida by the name of Yulee. It's about 12 miles from Jacksonville. And education was important. I looked mainly at, well, particularly at my father. My father had a 5th grade education, but he was very mechanically inclined, and I would climb up in his lap, and where other kids might have been, their father might have been reading Mary Had a Little Lamb, or my father was reading to me from the pages of Popular Mechanics.
Wow.
And he'd be reading about nuts and bolts and wrenches and all of those things. And but for me, it was just, first off, being with my father, and being engaged in something that he enjoyed, but developing his love of reading. My mother quit school when she was 15 because of economic challenges, but she spent her life getting her GED. She'd go back to school, work as long as she could, come and raise her children and deal with the financial challenges of being a mother in the segregated South. And the proudest moment was her getting her GED.
Wow.
And all of that for me was just an inspiration of that my father, no one would ever have known that he had a 5th grade education, because he read, I remember one of the books that I read in its entirety and on my own was a book about Abraham Lincoln, because that was a book that my father had in the house. And again, that climbing up on his lap at 3 or 4 or whatever, and having him read to me from Popular Mechanics. So it was that. I went to Florida A&M University, and my father called it FAMC for FAMU College all his life, and he'd say FAMC, and I said, no, Dad, it's FAMU, and he said, well, you know what I mean. But that interest, I never even questioned whether I would go to college. So it was just something ingrained with teachers and a principal and a school and a community and a church that were one and the same. That is what helps to define who I am as a person, and of course a big part of that is Elmer P. Martin.
Oh yes, yes, yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We will come back to you in a moment. But Brother Bunjo, now I know your name is Stanley Butler, but everyone knows you as Bunjo. So how did you get that name, and where were you born and raised, and what type of educational background did your family have?
You made me laugh, Mama Linda. You made me laugh. Certain things I can't say.
Whatever you can say. Whatever you can say. Bunjo, where that come from?
I'm born and raised in Baltimore City.
All right.
And you know, because you know me, that I share with everybody that Baltimore is the center of the universe. That's how I've always thought about it. So my education started here in Baltimore. And unlike that which Dr. Martin shared, I don't know my parents. The only one of my extended family, my aunt, I knew she graduated from high school, went to Dunbar. But in my house, school was important.
That's right.
School, you could not.
There you go.
Not do what you're supposed to do in school. It was that important. I went to elementary school. I went to my school was about 2 blocks from me. It was on Bunjo Street, and I lived on Alperton Street. When at the time it was called Robert Fulton Elementary School.
Robert Fulton Elementary School.
But then it after several years after I left, or several years down the road, it became Harry Tubman Elementary School.
Wow!
But in that school, and that was that has continued to be the cornerstone of my education. Because during that time in the 50s, and like it was a segregated school.
Right, that's what I was going to ask you.
It was all black teachers. I didn't even know that it was anything other than that. But they were dedicated to educating you, giving you the foundation. You were going to learn to read and write and do whatever you had to do to move forward. So it was after I moved from that school, and at the time, elementary school was from kindergarten to 6th grade.
That's right. I remember those days.
And then you went to junior high.
That's right.
Which started 7th, 8th, 9th.
That's
you know, wasn't no
middle school. That's right. Junior high.
And because of Brown versus the Board of Education, when we moved, at the time I was going to elementary school, I was living on Alperton Street. And then we moved to, I went to live with my aunt who lived on Trolley Terrace. I was still in elementary school and would catch the bus to go down, but then we moved to Callaway Avenue, which was 2 blocks, 3 blocks down the street from Garrison Junior High School at the time.
Was that still segregated?
No, it wasn't segregated at all. And it was then that I started to find out the difference between being in an all segregated school amongst black teachers and students, the black teachers that really cared about you, and then going to this junior high school that the only reason we were able to go to that school was because of Brown versus the Board of Education. Other than that, I might have gone to another junior high school. Anyway, in that school, that's where I started to that's the first time I had white students in our school. And it was, the white students were predominantly Jewish, right? We had some Greeks and we had some Italians, but it was predominantly Jewish. And you only had, at best, I'm going to say a handful, but it wasn't even a handful of black teachers. You know, they were white. And many of the teachers, I'll never forget this as long as I live, and I'm 72 years old. The some of the white teachers taught us or treated us like they resented us being there. They had to deal with us because of Brown versus the Board of Education. I never forget this one counselor, even though I can't remember his name right now, I won't be able to share with you his name, but he would do things like this. He would say, he would want you to come down to the office, send me Billy Roberts, send me Wayne Blake, and send me Stanley Black. My name wasn't no black. He was talking about my skin color, right? And all my friends would get on me about that. You know.
Now they would tease you.
And because of how things went down, even amongst us as black folk, I was dark.
Right.
It was better to be light than dark.
Right.
And then it came to a point where I found out light-skinned people went through the same thing that I had went through.
That's right.
But
that's right.
It was better to be dark. But anyway, and it was in girls say middle school, junior high school. Excuse me, y'all. But we had this feeling contest. Oh, yeah, I know. I said I wasn't going to say.
What's the feeling contest? You must explain that.
Oh, no, I got to explain it.
Yeah, you got to explain that one, brother.
In Garrison Junior High School, you go up one way and you come down one way in the thing, right? And or around. And amongst the folk in our class, and it wasn't only the black folk, it was some of the Jewish young men, the Italians and the Greeks. We had a feeling contest. You pat somebody on their butt, and whoever had the most feels would get the record. And I won the contest.
You won the contest.
And I became the Bunjolino.
The Bunjolino.
Right?
That's where you got the name Bunjo?
That got shortened to
Bunjo.
Now,
are you proud of this, Brother Bunjo? Are you proud of this now with all this?
I was proud of it then.
I know you're proud of it.
I've always been proud of it, but it got truncated also because of the film that was going on. I became the Minnesota Bunjo from Detroit.
I see.
We had a little thing that we used to go, I'm the Minnesota Bunjo from Detroit. Humpty Dimp, but will not pimp. Booty struck and known to pluck the cream of the poor man's crop. Swap, split, and talk doo-doo. Known to get down.
Goodness.
You know.
Oh
man. So that from that time until today, I'd always been Bunjo Butler. Even my family started calling me Bunjo Butler.
And that's all I've ever.
That's all I call it. That's all I know.
When you said the Stanley thing,
you didn't know his name.
Right. And Stanley. I've never liked being Stanley.
Stanley, I see.
I was with my family called me, which was Pee Wee.
Pee Wee. That's right. I heard them call you Pee Wee.
And in the bowling alley, and I've been bowling for about 50 years.
Yes.
They only know me as Pee Wee.
Pee Wee.
They don't know Bunjo, and they don't know Stanley. And at work or in professional environments, I'm S. Butler.
Butler.
Before we leave the Brown versus Board of Education, just a contrast in the. I worked in the 1970s in the Nassau County schools. That was it wasn't until the 70s, until 1970, that the schools in Nassau County desegregated.
Wow, 1970.
So what is that? 18 years?
Yeah,
16 years after Brown. After Brown versus Board of Education. But with my husband Elmer, the schools desegregated in 1950 something, maybe 1954, as a result of the ruling. Since that time, since 1954, I think 1959 is when the schools in Glasgow, Missouri, Howard County, I think it is, Missouri, desegregated. Since that time up to the last time I was there, which was maybe 2010, there has not been a black teacher in the schools of Howard County, Missouri.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Of course, Elmo up to 1959 went to segregated schools. When they made the announcement that the schools were going to be desegregated, Elmer said they called all of the black students into church, into one of the churches in Glasgow, and I may think maybe there were only two. and the white people were there. And he found out that there was a principal and some teachers and whatever. And they talked to them about making sure that when they came to the school, they took a bath. And you know that and all of this little etiquette that they figured black students would and their parents wouldn't know. So you're going to come and be worthy, you know, smell worthy, and be worthy, and all of that.
So about Jesus deodorant, I remember those days.
Said the surprising thing to him was one of the first images that he had of the white students was students coming to school with cow dung on their shoes because they were farms,
farms.
And they had worked, you know, fed the cows and the horses or whatever before they got to school. And he said, well, I'm wondering, and they're telling us to polish our shoes and whatever. And he's saying, he was a little boy, he's asking himself, well, why didn't they tell the white kids to take the dung off their shoes and to clean their shoes? And it was that kind of thing. And then the story, along with the fact that there have not been teachers in the school, Elmer said when he was in high school, he wanted to do, they had an essay to do. They gave an assignment to do an essay on some figure from history. And so they had to submit who they were going to do their papers on. And he said he was going to do his, he submitted Booker T. Washington's name. And so his teacher told him, the bell rang and his teacher told him to stay. And then she said, this name you got here on this paper, this Booker T. Washington person, is that a black man? And so Elmer said, he said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, you can't do your paper on him. And he said, well, why not? And she said, because I can't think of anything a black man done that you can write about. And I certainly can't think of anything a black man done that I want to read about. So you cannot do your paper.
Now, how old was he?
He was in high school.
High school. He was in
1959.
And this was in
about our age, all of us.
Missouri.
And so he said, well, give me my F now then, because if I can't do my paper on Booker T. Washington, I'm not doing the paper.
Give me my F.
That was
give me my F now.
That is. It was when I was in the Army, maybe in 68, going into 69, that I experienced knowing that it was white people that couldn't read. I had to help them reading things. What do you mean white people couldn't read? Because all I have ever heard was about black people couldn't read, ignorant, this, that, all the negatives about us. But it was then, and I'm saying 68, somewhere around 68 or 69, when I'm in just in the Army in basic training, that I find out, what do you mean black, what do you mean white people can't read? You know, I thought that was only us. That was the education
that's right.
that we received.
The stereotypes, those were the myths that were flying around.
Exactly. And no one's looking at, for our schools, when I said the school, the church, the home were one and the same.
That's right.
The whole idea that your parents didn't know that you couldn't read. I mean, when you were asked in church to read a Bible verse, somebody knew that there were all these mechanisms. When your mother told you to sit down and write the grocery list,
that's right.
And she's saying cabbage, and you're saying, Mama, how you spell cabbage? She got a problem. She knows there's a problem she's going to deal with right then and there. I'm sending you school every day, and you don't know how to spell cabbage.
That's right.
You know, so they knew quickly.
Oh yes.
And they had mechanisms for finding out what we could and could not do.
That's right. Oh, that's right.
I know that I cannot remember not being able to read, not loving reading.
I'm the same way.
And I became, when I became a librarian, I always share with people, that didn't have anything to do with my love of reading. I always read. And I have a cousin, one of my cousins, my first cousin, Dolores Hinton. I could never, ever forget how she just gave me accolades for, oh boy, you can read, you can, I don't know who taught me to read. I don't know anything to be able to express that, but I always loved to read. And my mother read, all of them read. They might not have been educated. And
read the newspaper.
It was a long time before I found out that certain adults, for whatever the circumstances were, could not read. That's right. But it was like your father. But they did it. They did everything. They had skills that, you know, that
able to get through it. Well, let me ask you this. First, you, Dr. Martin, because we ended with you going to Florida A&M, right? Now, from there, where did you go, and how did you meet Dr. Elmer, and how did you end up in Baltimore? We're trying to get you to Baltimore now.
Well, Elmer and I went to Florida A&M, and then I taught, after I graduated, I taught in the schools of Nassau County, and I taught in a school in Georgia. And then I went back to graduate school in Atlanta, to Atlanta University, and that's where I met Elmer.
Oh, okay.
He was in the School of Social Work, I guess. And we moved, we got married, we moved to Grambling, and we taught there briefly. And then we moved from Grambling to Cleveland. And that's where Elmer got his PhD, and I got another master's. I had a master's from Atlanta University, but I got another master's in reading education. When Elmer got his PhD, he was offered a job in Morgan
State,
and that brought us State University, Morgan State University, and that brought us to Baltimore.
To Baltimore,
and it was in Baltimore that we had taken his grandmother to Potter's Wax Museum in Florida, just as a way of getting her out of the house when she was visiting us. And she was bored to tears, but Elmer and I were just fascinated by this whole idea of the medium of wax being used that way. They didn't particularly tell history. It was more about celebrity and monsters and whatever, but just the whole idea that, for me, a history that's been faceless, like ours. And to be able to tell that story in a way that puts a face on history. And so it was that visit to Potter's Wax Museum, and then going to France and seeing the interest and the confidence that the French people had, because they knew their place in history. They knew they had a place in history. Nobody could tell them otherwise. And Elmer said that was one of the things that was missing for us and our people. That people wanted to deny our place in history, to tell us that we had no place in history, and that we needed to have the confidence of the French people and or the Spanish or whoever. And so, in a way that we don't have time for right now, that eventually led to us forming America's first Black History Wax
America's first National Gate Black Wax Museum. And also, Dr. Martin, how did you become a doctor? Where did you get your doctorate from?
When and Howard had that same pride, because they would make it clear that W.E.B. Du Bois brought these halls here.
They did.
They threw
it was like
you know, the legends.
Yes, the legend. You said it. Still there.
It's
still walking those halls.
Exactly. So that too was a part of what attracted me to Howard. There was just a sense of pride, and that I could do something for my father in that way, because Howard and Fam C were, you know, top on his list.
Wow. Well, Brother Bunjo, now you mentioned you were a librarian. Now, how did you end up becoming a librarian? What college did you go to?
What college I went to for library school? Let me kind of
I mean, you can
piggyback on
you can piggyback. Go ahead.
Because what I shared with you about being in junior high school, and it came a time in junior high school where we would get ready to be able to choose our the high school we were going to go to, and because of the desegregation, and because in school, I never was into I'm gonna be smart, but I always had good grades and everything because of that foundation I told you that that I had gotten in elementary school.
Yes.
And it came to a point where we could go to City College. City. Or I had the grades to go to Poly if I wanted to. The counselor that I shared with you would call me black, and he tried to talk us out of it to go to, and this wouldn't have been bad because this was wonderful, to go to Douglas, because that's where we all went. Or you would go to Dunbar, depending on what side of town you were on. West side, it was more than likely Douglas or something like that. And no, I merited it. I could go. I'm going to City College.
All right.
I went to City. I'm a City College graduate. And this was before they would let young ladies in there.
So it was all boys.
It was all boys.
But it was integrated.
It was integrated. And
that's that big Citadel looking place up on the hill.
The integration again was sparse because it was just at the time when things were becoming integrated, right? But it was just a cross section of ethnic groups there: Italians, Jews, all kinds of folk, and then it was folk from different areas because West Baltimore, East Baltimore, the like. You know, I know.
Were there any black teachers there?
Just a couple. Just a couple. And yes, they impacted my life in positive ways. And I'd be lying if I said there weren't some white teachers there that impacted my life in ways. But I went there and graduated from there. And where did I go? Morgan.
All right now.
Went to Morgan. Went to Morgan, and it was like, it would have been, it may have been totally different if I went to some school outside. And see, I was blessed to be able to go to Morgan because it costs money.
That's right.
It costs money. And a lot of folk couldn't afford it.
That's right.
Even though it was just, let's say, for $100, I could get 18 credits. I went to Morgan, but for me, it was like going, I always tell, on hindsight, I always tell everybody, I went from the 12th grade to the 13th grade. And I had plenty of fun there. And it was the first time in 3 or 4 years that I had females in my class. Females around, because I was in all boys school, even though across the street from City was Eastern, which was an all girls school. And yeah, we collaborated there.
Okay.
And I because I was in the 13th grade and went to the 14th grade and it was having all this fun, I met people from all around the country were coming to Morgan.
That's right.
All around the country were coming to Morgan. And I was lucky I was in a group of folk that, we would really have prestige.
That's right. Morgan was a prestigious college.
Bring you into Baltimore, into the city where things were going on. So folk would want to hang with us. But I played so much, man, and maybe 66, I flunked out.
I see you.
Right.
I see.
Ended up going into the Army, came back, was working.
We're going to stop right there, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now the mics might still be.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
You use tearless baby shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bathwater to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home, walk, restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet, fingerling, Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
It's the jump off. Welcome to the show, Underwood Show. Hot topics. We discussing anything, it's a go. We going live now. Got a favorite song, call into the show. Is he ready? Yep. 4, 3, 2, 1, here we go.
That's what I'm talking about. Charlotte Wood Radio in effect. Man, listen. I feel horrible.
Oh, wait.
Oh, no. It's getting worse. What's right? Oh, Vic Frost.
Come on,
made his own sound. Because Kyle is on the road as a comedian. He's on the road. Harry Sutherland, our favorite country lawyer.
Hear ye in the house.
Man, we got a couple of things we got to talk about, Harry Sutherland.
Okay.
But also, you're going to bring us some updates on what's going on in politics, world events, and news that you could use. Courtney Black back with the facts.
You know that.
Holding it down for entertainment.
Yeah.
And Jim Kelly, owner and proprietor of Sports Bar, gonna give us some
Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange. The Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
Artist Exchange Live.
The Artist Exchange. Artist Exchange.
The Artist Exchange.
And
they were allowed to say things, and I'm so bad that if I send someone a text, I'm going to proofread it before I press the send button.
Back on now?
Yeah.
But, okay, we are back on. Thank you so much. And Brother Bunjo, Do you remember what you were saying? You were talking about.
Sure, I was going to explain to
about
you
Morgan.
how I went to
punched
Morgan,
out of Morgan,
and I played and had fun. Joined the fraternity. Just met.
What fraternity did you join?
I was Alpha Phi Omega. It's an international service.
Alpha Phi Omega. Yeah, that's right.
International service fraternity.
That's right.
Right. International
they were at Papa Howard's
fraternity.
campus. Yes.
Right.
Lord, ain't it?
And I had always asked myself, that's another example, why I put myself through that? To be with the same people I was always hanging with anyway. But yeah, I was in that. And as I shared in the beginning, I was having so much fun that I ended up flunking out. I got drafted before I was able to go back. And I got drafted even though I was 4X. I had failed the military exam to go into the Army. And at the time, when you went to Morgan anyway, and I'm sure other colleges was like this, when I first did, you had to be in ROTC.
Yes.
You had to be in ROTC. And when I flunked out, I don't need no ROTC, and or not when I flunked out, but when I was 4X. I don't need ROTC because I'm unavailable for military duty. Anyway, I ended up having to go into the Army when I got drafted because they were trying to get Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali had said he wasn't going to go serve in the Army. The Vietnamese ain't never called him by the N-word. This bad boy. And he had, because of being in the Nation of Islam, he also had that reason why he wasn't going to go. But just like they did Colin Kaepernick, they took away his ability to live, to make a living. And one of the things they did is lowered the test score. That made it so my test score became a passing score. And I got drafted into the Army. Ended up in a military intelligence unit, right? Found out, as I shared earlier, that from being in the Army, that the one thing happened, the racism. I've never ever in my life experienced the racism like that. This is what turned me really on. I knew in Baltimore, I thought it was all about like dealing with the Jewish population, and or where I lived, the stores were owned by white. They were either Greeks, Italians, or Jews. Very few stores owned by black folk. I couldn't go to certain movies. I knew about the racism, but I never had experienced it as deep as it was when I went to in the Army. And the first experience, it was in Fort Bragg in was it Bragg? Yeah, in North Carolina. In North Carolina, I then understood why, and this was during like the civil rights movement, understand? And I came to understand why blacks in the South approach things differently than we did up north, because I saw that in the South, they would kill you.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
And everything would be everything. everything would be everything. The racism that I experienced in the South, and especially in Texas, North Carolina and Texas, it just turned me into a whole different person. One of the racisms in basic training in North Carolina, I got fed up with it. I said, I'm leaving. I'm going back home. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Right? You know how you had the option to go to Canada or whatever. I don't even know I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm not taking this. I waited till at night, got myself together, and was crossing the field on the way to the bus. And on the way to the bus, and went past the field where we did our not basic training, but our physical training, and where we ate at. And I fell down to my knees, and I started crying. And I just called on God, and I stood up, and I said, never again, it was in me, will I let white folk take me to where I was, that I could run. I went back up to my barracks, and never again were they ever able to break me. I hated the Army. I absolutely hated the Army and the way we were treated, especially in Texas, in the Army, and this is 68 and 70, the war in Vietnam, a mile off the post, in either one of them places, they wouldn't feed me. I couldn't get food in my uniform. I'm supposed to be fighting for the United States, you know. The racism was so virulent that, anyway, I finished, I come out of the Army, I get an early out, I go to broadcasting school. I'm gonna be a radio. I'm going into, I'm gonna be a announcer in athletics. I wanted to be a sports announcer and stuff and things. Anyway, I hated the Army, but because of the Army and coming out honorable discharge, I was able to get a house, my veterans benefits, and one of the things they did was let me, you could go to school, and they would pay for it for 10 years. You could to get those veterans benefits.
Now, is this the GI Bill?
It was the GI Bill, and it was after I got out, just a couple of years after I got out, they made it so you had to save money. It wasn't a given anymore. But anyway, I came out. I was working, and I was working for this Model Cities program. I was working, and when it closed down, I needed to find a way to have some income. And I knew if I went to school, I would get a stipend. I went back to Morgan in '72. And although I was at Morgan till I had done 3 years at Morgan before I flunked out, or 2.5 years at Morgan before I flunked out, but I had to do 3 years all over again. But when I went back, that was the first time, and I ran into this teacher. Her name was Dr. Irene Diggs. She was the first black woman to have a PhD in anthropology, and she taught this class called Du Bois and Race. Oh my goodness, that was the first time that I am starting, where I was learning about my black self in there. And I graduated from Morgan, long story short. and I was looking for a job, and they had this program where you could go to a job. They would pay you X amount of money, give you a stipend while you were looking for a permanent job. And I went downtown and got a opportunity to go to work in the library. Now, I had really grown to love the library because in Dr. Diggs' class, I had to do this assignment that caused me to have to live in the library. Live in the library. And it was, I did a paper on how Africa was presented in the Crisis magazine that Du Bois had edited, right? Even to the point where after I left Morgan and went to work in the library, they could not give me a permanent position. And I went to work, I left there because I found a job with the WIC program, right? And you know how the first day at the job, I went in there and they showed me the materials, the things we would use to help folk look for jobs, women, and I forget what the acronym stands for, but if you were in the WIC program, you had to come in there and you had to look for a job. And we had, it was microfiche at the time, and the newspaper, you look for a job, stuff. And the folk, most of the folk came only because they had to come if they wanted that check.
That's right.
The first day there, I said to my supervisor, after she showed me what was going on, I have made a mistake. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be looking for I worked there for tore my body up. It came to the point where I say, I can't do this no more. I'm not going to do this. I know I got family and everything, but this ain't what I want to do. The stuff I saw in there and how they treated blacks, how they treated the Native American population, I said I couldn't do it. My body said, you cannot do this. I was running out of money for my money for the GI Bill was getting ready to go. So I said, well, let me see if I can go to school and get my master's in library science, because I had fell in love with the library. But at the time I couldn't work for the library, nor could I get any money to go to school to get that degree. Anyway, I said I'm gonna sign up even though it's past the sign up period. I went down to College Park. I went to the University of Maryland, College Park. That was another racist institution. I went down there, signed up, and the next day they called me at my office and said, would you accept a fellowship? I said, what's that? They say, we pay for your school, you can't work, but we'll pay for your school. I could get my master's degree in 1 year. I just had to go to school. And I looked, coupled with the money I got from the GI Bill and the stipend they gave me, I was making more money than I was bringing home from, I said, yeah. And I went to library school down at the University of University of Maryland, College Park. I went in 78, graduated in 79, and in 79 I started working at the Enoch Pratt Free Library and worked there for 38 years till I retired.
Wow, woo!
Yeah.
I'd like to share a library
story.
Please do. Well, I have one of my own, but this one is about Elmer. Elmer, he was about 10 years old, and he was always reading. But and he said he went by the library and he looked and he saw this book. Now, when Elmer first told me the story was a book about Roy Rogers, and as years passed, and the story became about Booker T. Washington and not Roy Rogers. But anyway, that aside, the rest of it was true. So he said because he loved Roy Rogers, and so he said he went in and and told the librarian at the desk that there was a book that he wanted to check out at the library. And she looked at him and said, "Boy, you know that colors can't check no books out of this library. And you get on out of here." So he said he was embarrassed. People were looking at him, and that he stumbled home. And he sat out on the step, and his grandfather, who raised him, was there, and his grandfather was blind. His grandfather said he heard him, and he knew. Elmer said he knew all our footsteps, all his brothers and whatever. And his grandfather said, "Elmer Jr., what you doing out there?" And he said, "Nothing." He said, "What's wrong with you out there?" He said, "Nothing." He said, "Boy, something wrong with you. Get on in here and tell me what's wrong." And so Elmer said he went in. He said, "What's wrong with you?" And he said, "Well, I went to the library, and we'll call her Miss Ann, and I wanted to check out a book, and Miss Ann told me I couldn't check out a book because I was colored." And his grandfather said, "Oh boy, you got that wrong. Ain't nobody told you nothing like that, because that don't even make chicken sense." So Elmer said, "Well, Granddaddy, that's what they told me." So he said, "Well, let's walk back down here and see Miss Ann and straighten this out, because I know she ain't told you nothing like that." So we said they went back to the library, and he said, "Miss Ann, my grandson here said he wanted to check out a book, and because Elmer led him, to the by his hand and whatever. He wanted to check out a book, and you said he couldn't check out a book because he was colored, and I know that don't make no sense. So I know he got to get it wrong." And Miss Ann told him, "Manuel, you know no colored people can check out a book from this library, and you and that boy better get on out of here, or I'm going to call Casey." That was the sheriff. He said, "Call Casey. All you got to do is let this boy check out a book, because why he can't check out a book?" And so the next thing he knew, Sheriff Casey was there. Took them to the jail. Elmer said he didn't put him in a cell, but Elmer figured any minute we're going to be in a cell. And his grandfather and the sheriff told him, "You and that boy get on back home. You take your grandfather back home, because he going to be in jail, and you too, about this book, because colored folks can't check out no book." And so Elmer said he saw, as he walked home, his grandfather was a big man, and he'd always seen his grandfather as this, strong man who didn't take nothing from nobody. And he said, and that didn't change for him, but he said he saw his grandfather like it was a balloon that deflated. And they walked home in silence. And he said his grandfather didn't eat supper. Elmer said Elmer went to bed, and he could hear his grandfather walking around, and he just felt so bad. It was almost like his grandfather felt he appeared naked before his grandchild. And so Elmer said that morning, around 5 o'clock, he felt this stick poking him in the back, and it was his grandfather told him, "Boy, get on up from here, put some water on your face. We going back down to that library." And he's saying, "Granddaddy, I don't want the book, because Sheriff, boy, did you hear me? We're going back down to the library." So Elmer said he got up. He said, get some food in you, get some water on you. We're going back to the library. And they went. He said about 7:30 they were walking down to the library. The library opened up at 9. And Elmer said his grandfather told him, you come on around this corner so they don't see us, because if they see us, then they go call the sheriff and we won't get in there. So Elmer said at 9 o'clock, he saw the librarians go in, and they went in, and he went in, and his grandfather said, you gonna give my grandson that book? And the voice behind him said, yes, Mr. Manuel. Yes, we are. Yes, Mr. Manuel. And he said he looked up and there was a young white girl there. And the girl said, I heard what happened yesterday, and I've always felt bad and felt it was wrong that they wouldn't let colored people check out a book here. So she asked Elmer, can you sign this paper? And Elmer said, yes, ma'am. She said, and you know that this is not just about a book. And he said, yes, ma'am. And he said he didn't know he wasn't sure he understood what she was talking about, but he knew he was supposed to say yes, ma'am. And so she gave him the paper, and he signed the book, and they walked out. And he said his grandfather, when he got outside, he looked at him and said, son, every time I think I'm going to hate them crackers, one of them will come up and do something like this.
That's right. That's right.
Wow. That's a great story.
That library story is so wonderful. Folk don't know, deep into the 70s,
yes,
there were places, especially in the South, where you could not go into the library.
Nassau County, where I'm from.
Right.
Exactly.
You could not go to the library.
Yes.
One of the things, and I could always go to Enoch Pratt Library. One of the things that I always give Enoch Pratt for, he opened that library to everybody, regardless of. But even in that environment, one of the things that environment gave me the opportunity to be my black self.
That's right.
When I went in there, what I did, this was maybe about 83, 82, 83. And I had other colleagues to help me. But this was before I moved all the black books, all the fiction books out and put them in one section, all the non-fiction books out and put them in one section, just like I saw that they did if you were in a neighborhood that was predominantly Jewish.
That's right.
They had collections, separate collections where those folk could go find their materials.
That's right.
Where I was, I took the books out and I called it the Black Collection. The Black Collection. And the black clientele that came into that library had not experienced being able to see, all these black authors, all these things. And here's the thing I forgot to say, when I went to library school, because of the racism that existed, and while I was in library school, when I got out, because of what I experienced in library school, I put these parameters around myself in 1979. I only read books by and about the African and African diasporic experience, by black authors. It could be white authors if you're talking about.
Exactly.
And because of that, my favorite genre is nonfiction. I read fiction, but you better be somebody who can write. And because of that, and I would read the black books so I could share them with the clientele that came in there.
Hold that thought. And when we come back, we will talk about your books, since we're talking about books.
Okay.
And what book did you do?
And we're back with more Cheryl Underwood Radio.
Thank you. Crazy. Sorry. Thank you, super producer. Now listen to me. If it makes it to the podcast,
wow.
Jim Kelly is crazy. That's why he's the owner and proprietor of the sports bar, but he's also the white man on our show. They can say the white man things.
Representative.
Courtney Black back with the facts. Kyle Irby's on the road. Vic Frost, our super producer. Harry Southern, our favorite country lawyer. I am Cheryl Underwood, and I think Joe Biden is going to run for president.
I think so too.
Yeah. Why you think it, Harry?
Well, he's our best choice of winning. He ran with prior to running with President Barack Obama, he was a senator for years, so he's experienced, and he works on both sides of the aisle. So Republicans like him. They really like him. Like the late Senator McCain. They liked each other.
But then can he go up against the Comb-Over? Can he go up against
yes,
the Carnival show? Can he? But you got to be quick and say, because this is what's going on with President Trump, I believe. So you got somebody walk in the embassy, and we're gonna have to talk about that tomorrow. The Khashoggi thing.
Yes.
The update on that. So somebody walks into an embassy. More evidence seemed to suggest that the government the Saudis was involved in this man who was he a citizen of the United States?
He was. I forgot.
Or did he hold a green card?
There's a legal term that he received.
Yeah, because one minute they say he's a U.S. citizen, then you hear the Trump family, Don Jr.
Don Jr.
and the president talking about you can't do that to journalists. But the way you disrespect journalists allows people to believe they can do that.
Right.
60 Minutes special that we talked about a couple weeks ago talked about that. She kind of asked him about that.
Leslie Stahl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good interview. But he was bucking her back though.
Yeah,
he was bagging her back. And to me, I think Joe Biden with a good running mate like a Cory Booker. You think that could happen, Jim?
Well, they'll win.
Right.
I mean, it's about winning at the end of the day, right?
Oh yeah, Harry, you're supposed to look that up. Dude, let's bring that back tomorrow. You're supposed to look that up.
I think you could, because remember when Hillary was running, they always said run with Bill.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it from a legal standpoint. It can happen, but historically, of course,
this was due tomorrow. Tomorrow we do this tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I want you to break down. See, a lot of people don't understand that there are two votes. There's a vote for your president, and there's a vote for your vice president.
That's true.
And you have to put them in nomination.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna break all of that down. Also, we getting you ready to take souls to the poll. You must vote in the midterm election. If you do not vote, and there's a low voter turnout, then the status quo will stay in effect. And we don't want that to happen. If you don't want that to happen, then you got to vote. Now, if you want to maintain what we're doing, we'll vote on that side. But here at Cheryl Underwood Radio, we know who we supporting, but we also know what we want to advance is the fact that we live in the freest nation in the world, and we want you to go vote. This was right, super producer?
Yes.
Okay, when we come back, we got our HBCU shout out, which is an important reason why we should be voting. The legislature could cut funds for higher education. And where do they start? HBCUs. First. So we got our HBCU shout out. We got some entertainment with Courtney Black back with the facts. Then we're going to go to the sports bar with Mink. I'm talking women coming to eavesdrop. And our final thoughts in case you missed it. Cheryl Underwood Radio. We'll be right back.
And we're back with more Cheryl Underwood Radio.
Thank you, super producer. Hey, it's time for our HBCU shout out. Courtney Black, what you got?
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange Live.
The Artists Exchange. The Artists Exchange.
The Artists Exchange.
Starts now.
About being a griot.
It is. It's an excellent
and that's where
okay. Well, it's storytelling time and how we got over. Brother Bunjo, you were telling us about your experiences being a librarian, and you have brought in a book, and Dr. Martin has brought in some books. So would you like to share the book you have brought in, what that book is about?
Yeah. It's called Griots and Griettes. It's about being a griot. While I was in the library, and because I was in the library, I met Frisco Keeling.
All right now.
In Frisco, and that's where I met Mama Mary.
Yes.
That's where I became knowledgeable of the, at the time it was the Association of Black Storytellers.
Yes.
And in 1988, I went to the Storytelling Festival in Oakland, California.
That's right, 88.
And
that's right.
that is when I saw that, oh, I can do this, or I want to do this. And having been mentored by Frisco Keeling, boom,
there you go.
I went into the storytelling thing. Yes.
Now, may I see the book? Now, in this book, and you can share this with the our listeners, it talks about different names that griots and storytellers are called, because we just know of griot because Alex Haley brought that word back to the United States when he went over there to Gambia and Senegal and discovered his roots. What other words?
Jolly.
Jolly. Jolly.
Jolly. And what it also does is give you the different manifestations of the griot. The griot was just not a storyteller. I found out that there were 14 different, or at least 14 different things that the griot would do. Like, and one of the things that we teach in the growing griots, or that was taught in the growing griots, is about the different things that the griot did, which led to one of my, I'm gonna call it one of my signature pieces. I'm the West Baltimore African talking drum, and it was the ability to, because you know the plot, because I knew what was shared in the book, I could put all of that in one verse. I'm a Baltimore African I'm a West Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way they do it where my people come from. Praise singer, culture bringer, genealogist too, cause that's what an African talking drum do. I'm a Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way we do it where my people come from. Historian, educator, and interpreter too, cause that's what an African talking drum do. I'm a Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way they do it where my people come from. I play djembe, shaker, ray, and balalaphone too, cause that's what an African talking drum do. I'm a Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way we do it where my people come from. I bring you stories, games, riddles, songs, and proverbs too, cause that's what an African talking drum do. I'm a Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way we do it where my people come from. Where my people come from. I mediate and translate. I compose and advise. I'm a warrior strong, a spokesperson too, cause that's what an African talking drum do. I'm a Baltimore African. I always take them back and say, wait a minute, I'm a West Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way they do it where my people come from. Acculturation, education, and socialization, and I bring fun, cause I'm a West Baltimore African talking drum, cause that's the way they do it where my people come from. One of the things that I learned from the storytelling thing, when I looked at the plots of stories from different cultures, I saw that as human beings, we are all the same.
That's right.
We are all the same. I could see that from reading the stories of other people. But I'm down with my people.
That's right. That's right. Amen. All Homo sapiens come from Africa. We all come from the mother continent. The mother continent. We're all Africans. And once we realize that, I don't think we would have all the problems we have now. Now, Brother Bunjo, I want you to share with us the Growing Griots, what that's about.
The Growing Griot is a literacy learning program that is the youth component of the Griot Circle of Maryland. The Griot Circle of Maryland, in 1998, we had a group called the Growing Griots, and the Growing Griots at that time were children of members of the Griot Circle of Maryland and or the National Association of Black Storytellers. And we used to bring our children to the festival, wherever it was, right? And we formed, in Baltimore, we formed this group of Growing Griots, and they got to, we raised storytellers. And they got to travel around the country. We performed in Winston-Salem. We performed here in Maryland for the Library Association, for the American Library Association. And we performed in New Orleans the year before Katrina hit out.
In 2004.
And after it came to be around 2007, those folk had grown up. You know, David and Mary, they were on their way. Dr. David, Dr. Mary, they were on their way to going to college and stuff. So, and then being aware of these statistics that still in our schools, our black children were 50% of them, at least 50% of them, were coming out of high school functionally illiterate. They were not being taught their black culture. We put this structure around the Growing Griots. We said we were not going to just raise storytellers. We put this structure around the Growing Griots, where the program became one where we enhance your literacy skills, your ability to read, write, do public speaking, do critical thinking, all based on the African oral tradition, where we teach you about your culture. We teach you about things that you do not get in school.
That's right.
About yourself, so that you can be armed with knowledge of who you are, know about your heroes and your sheroes, and the things that your people have come through. We teach them in that your ancestors, your grandmothers, your grandfathers, your sister, your mother and your fathers, given the what you had to go through to be living in the United States of America. They are heroes and sheroes. They might not have names that you know, but because of what they were going through. And we have started our 11th year.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Now, how can one find out about the Growing Griots?
You can go to our website, and our 25-week program starts in October. We are in our 11th year. We have this October the 27th will make our third week of the 25-week experience. We are co-sponsored by the National Great Blacks in Wax Museum, the Greater Baltimore Urban League, the Enoch Pratt Free Library, and the
Grill Circle. Does Grill Circle sponsor you?
Grill Circle is their youth program, right? And we're also sponsored by the oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I'm having a blank. The
Union. Because I know you have several sponsors. But I didn't bring it up. I didn't bring it up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay.
But
it's just it's a wonderful program. I attend the programs every year, and it's just beautiful because it reminds me of when I was a child, and we would have to learn Bible verses, and the growing girls learn proverbs. They learn sayings, and it's a really beautiful experience.
Right. Yes.
Dr. Martin, you have brought in some books. So will you share with us the books you have brought in?
Well,
and you wrote these books, you and your husband.
My husband and I wrote these books. The first one published in 1978 by the University of Chicago Press. It's the Black Extended Family, and it was considered to be very groundbreaking because we talk about the fact that the Black Extended Family has been misunderstood because it's with any extended family, it was defined and looked at as a Walton type structure. Extended families were looked at where you had several generations living in the same household. And Elmer and I were saying in our works that the Black extended family does not fit that structure.
That's right.
Where you could have what we call the family-based household with, and it might be, say, in Glasgow, Missouri, with usually an elderly female and male as the head of the extended family, but it could be having these sub-extended families in Baltimore, Maryland, and therefore it can cross geographical lines. That you have systems in place like informal adoption, or what some people call kinship adoption, and where you have in these difficult times, for example, where the extended family, it can be overburdened because there's so much going on, but where it was the adoption center, not some facility. It was the place where people were going to be able to share their resources. So you share food stamps, or you share what's in your cabinet, and so forth. So it has been a survival mechanism. The second book was The Helping Tradition in the Black Family Community, and that was in 1985 by the National Association of Social Workers. And it was to counter that this whole notion by many social scientists and politicians and so forth, that some of them where they said the Negro has no values, no sense of tradition, no history, and so forth. And to look at, as Bunjo was just talking about, women, and just how powerful that many of the institutions, if not most or all, but many of the institutions, the church and so forth, are driven by the dedication of women. That even though many churches won't allow women to be deacons and certainly not ministers and so forth, but the church survives on those women seeing to it that there is an organization in place. So that's a tradition. People try to make a separation between the educated black person and the non-educated, or the one with little education. And we're saying that during not just during slavery with free blacks, but also during Depression and any number of things, you had women who and men, but women who did the social work, women who formed and worked in the orphanages, women who drove the food giving and so forth. And they were supported by men, but women were out there, and they weren't these women who put on hats and airs. They were out there doing the work in the trenches. Social work in the black experience is about the fact that our music, our folk tales, all of those things have been a way of healing, a way of helping us to survive any number of traumas that we didn't that the blues and the spirituals were coming out of the same place, same messages and so forth. And so we weren't just looking to divide them, that we could talk about love and from a spiritual side and a gospel side, and that same love and loss, and it does get to the heart of so much of what has defined us through no fault of our own, has been loss and attempting to live with the loss, whether it's a mother whose child is sold away from her. They talk about women being so distraught that they would jump overboard, or they suffered melancholy and so forth. And then the book.
We'll have to stop for 1 second.
Okay.
We've been told to go to break. We'll be back.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Bunjo, you didn't realize she written 4 books?
No, I didn't know she had written one. I didn't know she had written one.
I get that all the time. Right. Leaders of a beautiful struggle. I was the featured speaker at in Annapolis last year for their Maryland Black Caucus luncheon, and they had in the program about these books, and leaders of a beautiful struggle. Davon Love went on television on some show, and he said, "Do you know Dr. Martin is just so humble?"
And you are, Dr. Martin. You are so humble.
It's not humility. I just got so much to do. Elmer would have been out here, just
Back with more Cheryl Underwood Radio.
Thank you, super producer. Hey, shout out to RuPaul. He's part of the new series, CBS competition series, World's Best, and it's going to air after the Super Bowl.
Nice.
Because we have the Super Bowl this year, and it's in Atlanta. That's right. I'm trying not to work at all that weekend in case the company needs me
I know that's
to go down to
be
Atlanta.
available.
Yeah, there you go. Cheryl Underwood's Super Bowl special.
You better speak on it. Let's speak it into existence.
Put it out
nice, Jim.
And y'all just have to cram up into one room they gonna get, and we all get there the best way we can.
Head to toe.
Absolutely, man. Listen, but I think that's gonna be good. I think James Corden is part of that. So is what's the baby? Drew Barrymore. I think it's Drew Barrymore, James Corden, and RuPaul. And there's one more person, but I cannot remember who this other person is. Pull it up for me, and let's make sure we shout that out. Big ups to CBS. It's the world's best of every competition. And so that's what, and they all come together to compete. So I'm digging that. Let me see. Okay. Have you seen the new Maxwell? The Shame, the new video, and it's celebrating Black beauty. Have you seen it?
Right. I haven't actually seen it.
You haven't seen
some
it?
Clips.
Oh, you saw a clip of it?
Yeah.
How was the clip?
The whole thing.
You know, I got the new iPhone. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
No, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's just so good. I don't know
how to work it.
It's right. I'm sorry,
it's
Apple.
So
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's really tight to death. You know, because it don't have that knob down there. You have to flip it with your finger. But I'm messing.
What's the name of it again? The Maxwell joint.
Shame.
Oh.
And you know, he said it's like, you remember George Michael's video Freedom? Was so pretty with all the models. It's like that, but black women.
Yeah, no, that's
nothing
one.
But black beauty, right?
I like George Michael. Hey, don't forget to go see Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh, that look good. The dude look Remy Malek or whatever his name is. He looked too little to play Freddie Mercury, but they say he's doing an amazing job. Did we find out who's going to be in the CBS competition show? I know it's RuPaul, James Corden. I could have swore that was Drew Barrymore, and then there's one more person, and I don't know who it is. I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't know. You'll find it.
Oh yeah, we'll find it.
Oh, Faith Hill.
Oh, is that who it is? Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Faith Hill.
That's gonna be good.
That's interesting.
That's gonna be really. That's gonna be really good.
I like Faith.
Yeah. That's gonna be really.
Mark Burnett Productions. So,
Yep. So hey, we hope everybody watch it. Hey, on tomorrow, we're gonna talk about the dynamic producers that are out there, but are they producing everything together? Also, Issa Rae did an interview last week where she talks about her white audience, Shonda Rhimes and Mel Nudie. We might have to talk about that tomorrow, because there's 4, right? And there's 4 super producers.
No, this is 3.
This 3 already?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can talk about it today then. I'd be sorry. Also, the young lady from The Real got a TV show with Netflix. How can I be down? I'm talking about it in the next break when we come back with more Cheryl Underwood Radio.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
And we're back with more Cheryl Underwood Radio.
Thank you, super producer. Hey, Courtney Black back with the facts. You hear Janet Jackson's going to receive the global.
Vertigo. I got to step up. Something I'm going to fall. So last week everybody went Dunkin' Donut because with Mama BB and Grandma Edna and Mama Vicky, I don't want to take a chance, you know. Oh, and plus Mama Ruff was here last week. And
oh, was she?
okay, we're back. Now, Brother Bunjo, you remembered the wonderful organization that helps the growing griots.
Oh, yes. The Chesapeake Workers Insurance Compensation.
Yes,
right.
Yes, okay. And we were talking about Dr. Martin's book, Social Work and the Black Experience, by Dr. Elma Martin and Dr. Joanne Martin. And Dr. Martin, you said this book is about what again?
It's the ways in which the whole idea of loss, and how we use our blues, our spirituals, our folk tales, and so forth to help us overcome. The original name was Mourning, Mourning, and Mourning. Mourning, moaning, and mourning. We'd have to spell it so that we had to come up with another. Yeah. So, but just those ideas that has helped us to, those things have helped us to survive. And then spirituality and the Black helping tradition. This whole idea that on the plantation, for example, the ways in which they used the enslaved used their spirituality to survive, to help one another, to make it, and how we got over.
How we got over. That's what this is. How we got over. That's what this program is all about.
Exactly.
Spirituality and the Black helping tradition and social work. Yes, that's how we have gotten over, through our songs, through our extended family. All these are wonderful books, great books, and I recommend that you buy them. Now we have a few minutes left, Dr. Martin and Brother Bunjo, and I would like for you to share with us what you think can be done, or what you're doing to help the youth in Baltimore County, the surrounding areas. We know there is a crisis. The question is, what can we do, or what should be done? Share with us some ideas that you might have, or what you've learned of how you got over, because both of you got over, and you had to go through a lot of challenges, and the youth out here are going through a lot of challenges now. So the question is, what should be happening?
For me, to be there. We're not there. Yes, we're not in the heart of the African American community by accident. Being on North Avenue and being accessible. We're not a museum that or an organization that sees itself on an island and waiting for people to swim to us. That try to be out there and be with our children and help them to understand how they how knowledge empowers. Knowledge of them of self empowers. And being there to show them what caring about them looks like, and it looks like people who look like them, and so that for me, with our tour guide training program and so forth, is what we do to show them that we care and what caring looks like.
And can you tell us something about your summer program for youth?
That is our docent training program. We work through Youth Works, and so the children are paid through Youth Works, but we train them. They come in complaining that this is just like school, and yes, because we can't have you making the history up as you go along, or decide what the narrative is, but they one of them apologized and said, I started out by saying this is just like school, but it's not, because they're not teaching me this in school. And they'll come and say, I met someone from Wisconsin today, or the people who visit visit the museum will say, those children are wonderful. One of them said, she was telling me some things. I figure I know history, but I'm on my iPhone Googling and looking up what she said, and I'm saying, well, it's true, and so they're teaching as well as learning and being inspired and by that. So I'm very, very proud each summer when we work with those kids and where they start and where they end.
So being there, being inspired, encouraging our youth. Brother Bunjo, add on to that.
And add on is the correct word, or we become part of the black extended family.
Yes.
We become part of the black extended family. We reach out to the kids. It's our responsibility to reach out to the kids. It's our responsibility to make them aware of their past, their present, and their future. Yes. And they can do that by being them their black selves. Yes, yes. Their black selves. We help them understand that it's a challenge worldwide. Yes, international. It's a challenge worldwide. That's right. It's a global thing. But we do have family that care about them. Yes. We do have no matter which of the institutions we talk about, there are those of us in those institutions that care about them, that we reach out to them no matter what it is they want to be. The first thing that they have to know is who they are. That's right. Yep. Know thyself. Yes. Know thyself. Well, this has been a learning experience for me. I thank you so much, Dr. Joanne Martin. I thank you, Brother Bunjo Butler, for coming in and sharing how you got over. All right. And encouraging our people. And hopefully this program is a part of the Black Extended family as well, because we're all in this together. Yes. We all have to join hands and help each other. As my aunt used to say, we have to throw out the lifeline. And we all have to hold on to it, have to hold on, keep our hands on the plow, hold on. So our songs tell us many, many things. Our songs tell us a history, tell us about how we got over and how we can continue to get over. So it's important for our youth to sing their songs, to write their stories, to tell their stories, and we have to be there to help them, to guide them. We don't want them to feel that they are alone, because there's so many talented children, in this school, in this, what you say, Brother Bunjo, the center of the universe. There's so many talented children right here in B-More, the west side and the east side, and the north and the south. And the south. That's right. So please come to the Great Blacks and Whites Museum. Come and just knock on the door. Google and find out where it is and come and help. Also Google the Growing Griots, the Griot Circle, the National Association of Black Storytellers. Our festival will be October 31st through November the 4th in North Carolina. We're going to be at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Cary, and we're also going to be in Raleigh. This will be our 36th festival, 36 years. Mother Mary Carter Smith is the co-founder. Yours truly, Mama Linda, I'm the other co-founder. And Mother Mary, just what she has left, a legacy in this town. And every youth should know who she is and what she was about. And I've met people on the street who have stopped me and said that they knew Mother Mary and that they learned so much. Not only they learned from her radio program, she was a teacher here. Yes. And they learned from her as a teacher. So we have sheroes and heroes right here, right here. We have ancestors right here whom we need to talk about. So again, I thank you, and I thank you, listeners, and I want you to keep thinking about how you are getting over. Thank you. Peace and blessings.
Back with more Cheryl on Underwood Radio.
Thank you, super producer. We're in the sports bar. We're come to talk about, come to eavesdrop. I'm going to run through this really, really fast. We were just talking about an entertainment about the girl from the Real. What's her name? Jeannie Mae. That she didn't want to have another baby. Yeah. With she didn't want to have any babies with her baby with her husband Freddie. Right. Is that name Freddie? And then Freddie left her and then gets another girl pregnant right after. Quick, right? Yeah. Oh, we have an announcement on Cheryl Underwood Radio.
What's that? Freddie should have hit me up because I'm having another one.
Yay! Oh, really? 5, baby.
You having a baby?
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it. I'm so happy right now.
Congratulations.
Oh my God.
Go to work,
Found out
Jim.
what it was too.
What you have?
What is it?
Another boy.
Oh, yeah.
God, look at you.
Okay, now you got to keep
Got some
having
good
these little
sperm.
boys.
Jim putting
You
it
need a
down.
whole
He putting it
basketball, baseball,
Come on,
soccer
Jim.
team.
Yeah, I don't
Car
know.
wash
we found out this week.
Yeah. Oh my God, you got more workers for the car wash.
Okay,
That's right,
that's
Courtney.
right.
That's what I thought. For
Really, really, truly, I don't know whether to cry or laugh. I just don't know what to do. I just,
Listen to me. It
child
ain't
support gonna
you.
be sky high.
It
His
ain't.
child
He don't
support